Machine recounts are underway in Florida in all of the state's 67 counties. Results are contested in the Senate, Governor, and Agriculture Commission races. Unofficial totals say the margin of all three races are within 0.05 percentage points. Now, as of Saturday, Republican Governor Rick Scott is ahead for the Senate. Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis is ahead for the governor. And the Democrat Nikki Fried is ahead for the Agriculture Commission. But most of the focus is on, once again, Broward County, where despite criticism and claims of fraud, a Florida judge said he's seen no evidence of wrongdoing. This may not be a surprise to some. Florida was the battleground for the 2000 presidential election, which saw George W. Bush defeat Al Gore. So for tonight's 360 View, we have to go to our panel, some of my favorite gentlemen who know this area, former Florida Democratic Party Chair Mitch Ceasar and conservative radio host Steve Gill. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Hi.
Mitch, I have to ask you, you were once chair of the Broward County Democratic Party. Why does Broward County always seem to be central location for contested votes?
Well, Florida loves to be the center of attention, and Broward wants to be the center within that. Yes, going back to the presidential recount of 2000. Remember, we're a very big urban county. Also, we're the largest Democratic county in Florida. And because of that, during Republican administrations, there's a little more scrutiny, whether needed or not. But it's a problem. You know, remember, Miami-Dade has very few problems, and they're larger than us, but they're part of the county. So the county can spend whatever money it needs to spend. We have to live within a budget, so we look a little bit worse by comparison. But actually, it's just recount Broward.
But that's it. It's just Broward County. But you'd think after now you get it fixed. I mean, if it's this much of an issue, for the love of God, bring the federal government in at this stage if we continue to have these cases. Steve, does a recount actually help or hurt a county? This continues to be a problem with the county. Why can't officials kind of set it straight and get it right?
I think they need to bring in some 12-year-olds with calculators, and that might help the process a little bit. It seems like every other county in Florida, except for Palm Beach County and Broward, can get the job done. And it's consistently a pattern of problem in these particular counties. And Broward County in particular has a problem because Ms. Snipes, who is in charge of the election process there, has a track record of either blithering incompetence or what may be a more insidious intent. Again, when you look at a pattern of making these mistakes over and over again, at some point you have to assume that maybe they're not really mistakes.
Well, that's the thing, Mitch. We keep talking about integrity of voting on all these other issues, whether you talk about foreign interference or even domestic problems. Don't you think that this actually hurts and it makes the genuine concern of integrity of voting? Why don't we see for some sort of pushing of a nationalized voting laws and national voter registration that would probably help instead of letting these local municipalities take the issue up, Mitch?
I think what would really help is if we uniformly made the ballot one ballot in Florida. Every county writes up their own ballot. That's how we had the butterfly ballot in 2000 that cost Al Gore the election. And there's been a problem with the Nelson U.S. Senate race because of the ballot design that existed only in Broward County, where the drop-off between Senate and governor was so drastic, which hurt Nelson a lot. Remember, Brenda Snipes was appointed by a Republican governor in 2003. That was Jeb Bush. And we've had a very odd history with the supervisor elections. The one prior to her was a Democrat who was removed. I think what's happening is that we really have to go before the county commission, ask for updated machines, maybe ask for more staff, and maybe all this is avoidable.
Well, and I know it's a hard thing because I know you work hard. People work hard every day for their elections to happen. So, Steve, I'd have to ask you, why don't we have stronger voter ID laws? Why isn't this something that more people, on both sides of the aisle, are pushing for to actually try to restore integrity so we don't have these issues?
First, I'd say, yes, Brenda Snipes was appointed by Jeb Bush, but then was elected by Democrats in Broward County. And I don't think the design of the ballots are the problem. When you have people finding them in Avis rent-a-car trucks, when you have them finding in school classrooms, when they're just mysteriously appearing, heck, if you check in your couch for loose change, you'll probably find a couple of Florida ballots. The problem is not the design of the ballots, it's the way the process is being handled. And yes, I think that voter ID would be a big help. It makes no sense that I have to be carded to buy cold medicine to buy Sudafed, where people can go vote by mail when there's no clear choice of whether or not the person sending in the ballot is the person to whom the ballot was sent. And we have examples that we're already seeing, and I think we ought to have a full audit after this election process is over to decide whether or not people were sent ballots that didn't request them, cast ballots that weren't legally able to cast them. And when we're counting the ballots, it should only be those legitimately, legally, and honestly cast, not just whatever they happen to find in Broward County.
Well,
I'd like to add one thing. Of all the allegations that were just put forward, every single one of them has been proven false. And in all the lawsuits filed by Rick Scott and by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, there has been absolutely zero evidence of any of those. In fact, it's gotten so out of hand that the Miami Herald ran an article today called The Election Myths. 3 of those were just mentioned, all proven to be false. That's what it's called, futuristically suppression of the vote, because it makes a problem for those who want to believe in the system futuristically so that their vote will count next time. What's happening in Broward is it's taking painfully slow. I totally agree with that, perhaps inappropriately so. But you want to make sure every vote is counted and counted correctly. All these sideshow things have been proven legally as totally false.
Well, so then let me bring this up to you, Mitch. How come Republicans are coming back and saying, well, then how come in all these recount votes, it's only Democrats that are benefiting from it? Now, granted, in the past, you did have Bush end up winning Broward County. You have had up in Minnesota, you did have with Al Franken, the Republicans asked for end up in the the Democrats' favor. Why are all of these, whether you're talking about Arizona or Florida, even Georgia right now, seem to be benefiting possibly the Democrat? You're not finding any of these recounts actually electing Republicans.
Well, we're not sure if that's true or not. Obviously, Arizona has already been declared a winner for the Democrat. She has won, which has been great for us nationally to keep the losses in the Senate at a minimum. The bottom line is maybe there should be some uniformity. It doesn't help the system or the institution of voting to give voters a feeling that their vote won't be counted. And I can speak really much more effectively, honestly, about Florida. And nothing's been overchanged. And frankly, with a lead this big, I don't suspect anything will be changing. We had a situation in Florida where Bay County, which is in the Panhandle, very heavily Republican, decided, because of the storm being there, said, well, I'm going to accept ballots by fax, by email. That is against the law under Florida statutes. And the governor, Rick Scott's own Secretary of State, said, I cannot accept those ballots. It's against the law. So you have a lot of different folks with a lot of different things happening. Some are intentional, some are not. I don't believe they always favor Democrats. Bay County is a great example of something that's really no one envisioned would be off the scale.
Okay, so I've got to go to Nashville. Tennessee did not have hardly any contested elections, at least on the federal level. Any advice Tennessee can give to Florida right now so they can avoid the problems?
Well, first I would say that the illegal votes cast in Bay County were cast aside. That's how it should work. The votes that have been illegally cast and counted in Florida, in South Florida, in Broward County, should also be cast aside. And contrary to what was said, we have specific examples of what have been admitted, that you have ballots that were deemed unacceptable that were then mixed with ballots that were allegedly acceptable ballots. So there have been flaws, and so far there's not been a complete analysis of what flaws, what corruption, what negligence may have occurred. You have one partisan judge who says he saw nothing. Well, Sergeant Schultz always said, I know nothing, I see nothing. At the end of the count, when a full investigation is done, we're going to find that the Broward County, Ms. Snipes' supervision is consistent with her past errors, past omissions, and past major corruption issues that we've seen in the past. It's too early to have found that now, and to just dismiss it out of hand ignores the facts we already know.
Well, in the end, elections have consequences, and so we're going to see what the consequences is if this election will ever end. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.